Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ethos Online. Again, this is a space where we can be, belong, and become the very best version of yourselves. So, we again want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for traversing, digging into the Bible, delving, asking difficult questions. Right? What did the author intend for his audience? Who was the audience? Right? What does this story really mean? And then we do the difficult work of applying it for today. And so again, that's what we do with Ethos Online. And so we want to remind you again, it's Christmas season, right? We're getting close to tax season at some point soon. The year's drawing to an end. If you want to support what we do, remember it is tax deductible, and we think Ethos Online. We think that our Ethos living room sessions, our podcasts, all of it is it's worth sharing. So if you want to consider walking with us, supporting what we do, please consider donating. We'll give you the links below. But please consider walking with us in that. We think we're doing really good things in the world, and we're sharing really good, positive news for everyone. So, everyone, as we continue moving through, I love getting questions from you. And I just got another one from the book of Genesis. And I really enjoyed this one because many of you've been following along and you've been picking up certain things that you're like, hey, wait, I remember this, but what about this? And here's the beautiful thing. I will share my opinion, and you may agree or you may disagree. I don't know, but it's the beauty of it is that we're asking questions together. We're sharing ideas, we're sharing perspectives, and that's really where the life of it is, anyways. That's what rabbis would do when they would come together. Rarely did you find one rabbi that completely agreed with another rabbi. And so the beauty is, as we discuss, as we agree, as we disagree, we delve into Torah together, and what we do is we experience life, and that's the beauty of it. So the question I had come in, I really like this one. This was from a good friend of mine. She asked, "Tell me, when the ark is being built, do you think that the reason behind the ark being built is so that it could secure a group of people, so someday that the Messiah would come? Like that was the purpose of the ark." And I thought that's an interesting question. And like again, where was God? While the ark's being built, could that have been like how it miraculously is all put together, define some physics and those kind of things? Good question. Here's my thought on it. And again, I'll kind of delve into more and more of it as we go. But I wanted you to consider this quote. This quote again comes from one of my favorite theologians. He says this: "The ark was a deeper metaphor of the vessel, the vehicle that protects Israel and leads them through captivity." And so the ark, when you hear the ark, if you are a Jewish rabbi, especially if you're a Jewish rabbi, but even if you're just a Jewish person moving through learning Torah, when you're 12, you can recite Torah by memory, right? This is how well you know Torah. It'd be like us today. Hey, remember the episode of Seinfeld when he does this and this? We know that, right? Because we watch these episodes of these shows over and over and over again. For these Jewish people, they have read these stories backwards, forwards. They understood the deeper significance, all of it. They knew Torah. And so when you bring up the ark, they immediately make the connections. The ark, the word meaning vessel, meaning basket, right? And so they immediately connect all the different stories of some kind of vessel, some kind of thing that holds specific characters, people, nations, all of it together. Protection. That's the idea here. And so ark means many things for them. There's also a messianic concept to it. So when you ask about this messianic figure, and I'm pretty sure you're referring to Jesus, someday in the first century, there's some really interesting concepts when you think of messianic people all throughout Torah, right? So check this out. Moses does this for Israel, right? He protects Torah. He helps ensure that Israel, the nation of Israel, is going to move through captivity. And so Moses, when they hear ark, basket, messianic figure, they're going to think Moses. Moses did that for his people. Again, whether you believe Moses is a literal figure, a figure that's been like blown into like larger fishtail proportion, or a metaphor, however you choose to. And again, the audience that we have here, all different perspectives, which is a lot of fun. But however you view it, Moses for them, when they hear Moses, they think messianic figure that will be the ark, the thing, the vessel that helps move Israel from captivity. Look at the story of Joseph, right? Joseph steps in at a time when Israel's going to need him the most. And actually, it's even bigger than Israel, right? It's almost like ark flood proportions, right? But instead of a flood, what do we have? Yeah, we have pestilence, famine, these kind of things show up. And what Joseph does is he helps sustain his people within, now watch this, not an ark, but within the confines of Egypt. Yeah, so fascinating. So again, Joseph, ark. Think of David. David is another interesting individual who basically helps his people move from captivity, brings them to like some of the highest points Israel's ever had. David would be another one, right? Fights off the giants. Daniel, right? Daniel, Babylon, right? Daniel keeps his people safe while in Babylon. He's able to keep them safe, protected. They don't assimilate when they're in Babylon. Right? So the story of Daniel, again, Daniel is that figure, that vessel, the word basket, right? Daniel is that messianic archetype, right? That person. And so Jesus, I would agree with many people. Jesus then becomes, for the first century, he does this for Israel, right? And yes, the ark, the deeper metaphor, this is a beautiful way to view like the picture many times, right? For many of these vehicles, Jesus becomes like this picture that we are going to get through Roman captivity. And Jesus becomes that central figure that says, I'm going to lead you out of captivity. And I'm going to do it in a very similar way, right? Moses, I'm going to do it in a very similar way as Joseph. We're gonna find ways to do this in peaceful, loving ways. We're gonna be able to walk out of here, but we're gonna keep Jewish, right? We're gonna keep the values, the real values, right? Loving one another, forgiving, learning to be the gift to the world. That's the idea here. So Jesus becomes this, right? And so again, did the ark literally happen or not? The floods, etc. I have some doubts about the flood, right? The literal things. I have some doubts, but bigger picture, especially 2020, I always have room to be surprised, right? Whether this was literal or not, whether God was literally standing over it and was like, I'm going to defy physics here, I'm going to defy different evolutionary processes, all of that. I'm going to somehow put all of this into one. Maybe not. I don't know. But here's the thing I do know: when Jewish people read this, and when the authors were writing it, the intent was Israel. You're in the middle of captivity. You're in the middle of brokenness. And please know this, Israel, there is hope because you are going to be protected. As long as you're together, right? As long as you're together as a people united within that safe ark, whatever the vehicle is there for you. If you are together and Torah is your guide, it's the thing leading you, then you will make it through captivity. You'll make it through whatever pain and brokenness you're in. Come on, that's so good, right? That's very applicable. It makes sense. It really is beautiful. And so that's how I might respond to that question. And again, I know that it's very deep, right? But it is the authorial intent. It's what the authors meant. And any Jewish person reading it today, most of them would agree. They would say, yeah, that's the idea here. The ark brought our people from captivity into freedom. In the middle of chaos, we were protected. It's beautiful. And actually, for many Jewish rabbis, they would say the ark is even a bigger symbol of Torah, right? Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, this gift that they believe the divine gave them, this gift. It's the thing that sustained them, right? And that's a beautiful idea in itself, right? So again, great question, Genesis, right? Let's get back to Genesis. Genesis, again, is part of the gift, right? Babylonian captivity It is the gift. It's the thing that they compile, those 5 books, while they're in Babylonian captivity. They compile it. It's written in response to the fears of assimilation. We want to keep who we are. We want to be Jewish, right? We want to keep our Jewish values. We don't want to become just another nation that Babylon swallows, right? We want to be set apart. And so that is Torah, right? That is the reason and the rhyme behind the whole thing. And that's why you have poetry, mythology, prophetic warnings, all of it there, letters. It's all there as a reminder. This is who we are. Not a history book, but something so much richer, something so much fuller. And so Torah is a complete narrative of Israel miniaturized through its tellings. Every story, every messianic figure, right? Every person is going to bring about a deeper understanding of who Israel is, who Israel isn't, where they're going, what their values are, the cycles they continue to repeat. You'll see this over and over again. That's the point. So we've been moving through Genesis 7. And so again, Noah, let's remember this. Noah is the one who finds favor with the Lord, right? And again, Noah meaning rest. So when there's chaos, when it seems like the world is turned upside down, Noah rests. There's the reminder that there's a rest, there's a calm before the storm, right? There's a moment where we say, let's just breathe. Let's breathe. The world's going to get crazy, right? Let's breathe for a moment. Things will change. There is hope, but let's just breathe for a moment. Let's come together. Let's take a Sabbath before we step into the crazy again. That's the idea with Noah here. It's a really beautiful idea. So here we go. Genesis 7, 7 through 12. I'll read you the passage first, and then we'll just delve in phrase by phrase, and I'll show you kind of some beautiful ideas here. So here we go. Noah was 600 years old, and the flood came about water upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the flood waters. Of the clean beasts and the beasts that are not clean, of the fowl and all that creeps upon the earth. 2 by 2 they came to Noah to the ark, male and female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after the 7 days that the flood waters were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, on this day, all the springs of the great deep were split, and the windows of the heavens opened up, and the rain was upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. So, again, remember, basket, remember the Moses story, remember Joseph, remember all these different things. There's always some kind of chaotic moment that's going to bring Israel out of captivity. It's going to bring them through the chaos, but there's chaos, right? There's brokenness. There's something catastrophic that happens, right? So here we go. Noah was 600 years old. Now, many evangelical theologians over the last couple hundred years, they've taken this very literally. Oh, back then people lived a lot longer than they did now, and that's because sin was rampant. And I'm thinking, but if your ideology and your theology points to like eschatology, right? You're pointing forward that it's going to get worse and worse and worse. I don't know. But then some people say, well, it wasn't as bad then because people could live longer because sin wasn't there. And then I'm thinking, but sin must have been really bad because God needed to flood the whole earth. So again, the whole thing gets a little bit weird, convoluted, right? Did people live longer back then? Well, here's the thing. Again, for Jewish writers, for the people who wrote it and to their audience, they did not take this literally. The majority of Jewish theologians did not take these ages very literally, because for them, again, there was a deeper significance to age. And so it's important, deep metaphorical understandings of Jewish custom it will make sense to you. So here, get this. The number of old ages found in the Torah signify the depth and wisdom one calculates after walking with Yahweh, right? So I want you to think about this for a moment. The idea here of Noah. Here's the thing. Noah has lived long enough to gather something. Gray hair, yep. And a big beard, apparently. Yep, got it. Something deeper. When you live long enough, the idea is hopefully you've gathered wisdom, right? These long years, 70 years, 120 years, right? All really important years for people's lives. When you've lived over 100 plus years old, you've gathered what they assume to be wisdom. You've become what the Buddhists would say enlightened, right? You're enlightened. And this is what, again, a true leader for Israel would be, someone who has become enlightened, someone who has gained wisdom. Now, think about our culture right now. And I purposely put some of these pictures up. Um, when a nation, when a culture, when they begin to be very dependent on very young voices, here's the danger here. I'm a young person still. Well, I'm 40. I don't know. I'm kind of in between now. But young people have energy and they ask questions and there's so much knowledge that we unearth and it's so good, right? And I cheer for some of these people. Some of the people on here I don't cheer for. Others I do. I'm like, yes, get out there, say things, ask questions, which is brilliant. But here is the danger. When a culture only listens to the young and the sexy voices, what potentially can happen, and I think we've seen this many times in history, is that we get so used to the young, vibrant voices, all of these people, that we forget there are older, mature, wisdom voices in the past that have actually warned us about certain things that sometimes we don't always listen to. Sometimes the knowledge we pick up is really interesting, sometimes really good, but if it's not connected to wisdom voices of the past, we potentially begin to go awry. You see it, right? It's interesting to note many people will, rather than go to, some of the older voices of the past, they will immediately look to, well, what does my social influencer say? The 21-year-old who seems to have all the answers. What do they say first? Right? I love some of these voices. I added some of my favorites on this quote. There are a bunch of really interesting quotes here. Aldous Huxley, right? I love literature. George Orwell. I even put a Malcolm X quote, right? Politics, religion, Mother Teresa, Albert Einstein, Thomas Jefferson, all of these individuals. And take a moment, read some of these quotes, even pause it if you want to. These individuals had a lot to say about a lot of the stuff we are dealing with right here, right now. But what, again, is really fascinating to me is a lot of those wisdom voices have been pushed out. A lot of those wisdom voices have been exchanged for SNL, right? Saturday Night Live, the music industry, right? All of a sudden, we're listening to the music industry for wisdom. Like, what? And a lot of these young voices who are talking about, you got Cardi B and others telling us about politics. And it's like, wait, what? Like, what are we doing, right? We should be seeking wisdom as we acquire knowledge. We should be seeking wisdom first when we come across very real 21st century problems, right? We should be looking at wisdom as we gain more and more problems and more knowledge. Sometimes knowledge, problems, we look back at wisdom. Wouldn't it be great if we walked together with wisdom? That's the beautiful idea here. Noah has experienced wisdom. Yeah. And so you get this idea, every culture and even individual, but every culture goes through these cycles, right? If we don't follow wisdom, we fall into captivity, right? The empire crumbles, the system falls apart. We move into captivity. We're no longer free. And then there's moments after you've experienced the captivity, like the Jewish people have mentioned and gone through. After a while, the people finally start calling out. They start revolting, right? They start calling out, this is wrong. For the Jewish people, it was not a violent revolt. For the French, for the Americans, for the Germans, there was violence accompanied with it, right? But there's some kind of calling out, right? And then after the calling out period, the revolution, whatever it is, you step into the freedom, right? And after you experience the freedom and you're living fully, there's certain things you're learning and unlearning as you go. And at some point you experience utopia, right? But then again, if you don't break the cycle, you fall back into captivity. You begin to forget what the wisdom voices said. And before you know it, the whole thing crumbles. And I would argue again, this is, yes, we can look at nation, right? Nation, empire, people, tribe, but we can also look at individuals. I think it's also the human story, your story, my story. We have to start listening to wisdom again before we continue repeating cycles. I think to be human is to learn, right? To learn from a mistake, break a cycle. We'll get into more of that later. Continue with the verses here. Of the clean beasts and the beasts that are often not clean, of the fowl and all that creeps upon the earth, 2 by 2 they came to Noah to the ark, male and female, as God commanded Noah. So again, last week we talked about clean, unclean. This is very deeply metaphorical for them, right? If you eat a piece of bacon, that does not mean that you are no longer, like you literally are an evil piece of scum. No. But it's what it symbolized for them. It was a deeply symbolic thing. They understood the pig itself is not evil. Like that's just a pig. It's an animal, right? It is what it symbolized to them. And yeah, one could make a pretty good argument that eating certain kinds of meat, really fatty meats and things, probably not the best for your diet, right, in your body. But again, we're looking at the deeper significance here. It wasn't evil. It wasn't bad, right? It symbolized something. For them, they wanted to be a people who were set apart. And so again, dietary laws, these didn't come in until later on, Levitical laws, right? So if you're going to take the Bible as a history book, then again, these laws would not have been in place yet, right? So again, remove some of that from your thinking and go a little deeper. They are a people who are set apart. There are people who believe they should be living clean, right? Their fullest lives. That's the idea. There are certain things we don't do, and there's certain things we do. There's certain rules, regulations, ideas we keep because they keep us clean, right? Pure, not like sinless, but they keep us on the right track. They keep us on the right path toward life. That's the deeper idea of these clean and unclean. And again, this is going to be an immediate connection for them, right? Back toward the Levitical laws. Yeah. So it continues. And it came to pass after the 7 days that the flood waters were upon the earth. So again, think about this. This word 7, right? We know, again, so many words, so many numbers all have so much interesting symbolic significance if you're Jewish. And so knowing this, again, 7, always deeply connected to this idea of like entirety, right? It's finished. So understand this about Noah. What it's saying here is Noah's part, his part in the whole thing, his preparing his people, right? It's finished. He's done what he's been called to do. He's done the difficult work. So again, like Joseph, right? Joseph's part is finished after he leads his people to, again, Egypt, right? Where they're able to survive famine. His part is kind of done. That's why the story kind of ends, right? For Noah, of course, we got to get through the flood. Yep, got it. But his part in building the ark, doing the difficult work, it's done. Now he has to do something interesting, right? Something that our culture hates. We despise this. And honestly, truthfully, this is the most difficult part of spirituality because now he has to wait and he has to rely on the divine. That's difficult, right? The waiting is really, really hard for us. Some of us, we do not like to wait to get a response from people. We don't like to wait for our food to come and be served to us, right? We don't want to wait for the internet to connect. We don't like to wait. But waiting is a very spiritual thing. Yeah, learning to wait upon the Lord, knowing that my time is not always everyone else's time, right? The world does not revolve around me. There are bigger things going on than just up here. And this is a beautiful reminder. We're called sometimes to wait, right? We've done all the work. We've said everything we need to say. Done everything we need to do. Sometimes now we have to wait. Wait for the bigger thing. And that's why, again, I love that. But those who trust in the Lord will find their strength. They'll soar high on wings like eagles. This comes from Isaiah They'll run and not grow weary. They will walk and not go faint. But notice this: trust, wait. These are moments where in the middle of the, what if instead of freaking out, sitting in the anxiety, losing your marbles, what if during that time you said, I'm going to take this time to renew my strength? I'm going to take this time to, let's use the Jewish word again, Sabbath, right? I'm going to use this time to build resilience, right? I'm going to use this time to build up my relationships, connections. I'm going to use this time to breathe again, to get back into sync. That's the beauty here of what's going on for Israel, a group of people who, again, middle of captivity. The idea here is, hey, you've done the hard work. You compiled Torah, right? You have done your very best not to assimilate. You've been calling out. You've been doing everything you can. I need you to stop. I need you to breathe. And I need you to trust. That's the beauty of the story. Things are going to change. We've done all we can. Now we wait. And waiting is normal. Yeah. So, and then it ends with this. It goes through the 17-month, all the springs were split, the windows of heaven are opened again. This is how you might describe a flood in ancient times, right? Because again, they believed that up there is a big blue expanse. So if you want to flood the world, you're going to take a knife and you're going to cut something and boosh, it just drops, right? All the water up there, the firmament drops, and the firmament down there, you split that and that opens up. And what do you have? You have a flood because water is going to come from both, according to ancient tribal people, how they viewed the world, right? So whoosh, yeah, nothing but water. And it happens so quickly, right? We would say today, scientifically, we would say it's going to take a little bit longer than that to flood the world, right? But no, not if that's your understanding of the world. The firmaments down there, up there, splitting it, God just kind of ripping it. That's how they would describe it. Got it. I'm not worried about it. You shouldn't either. Right? There's something deeper going on here. And so notice this, 40 days, 40 nights. This is really pretty cool. Again, if you are Jewish, when you hear this 40 is something you are very, very familiar with, especially when you consider captivity. Look at the slide here. 40 days, 40 nights, 40 years, right? Israel will wander the wilderness for, 40 years. Again, it could have taken them 7 days, and that's a long time for them to get from Egypt to Canaan. It would have taken maybe 7 days max. 40 years? 40 days would have been absurd. 40 years? There's something deeper going on. Jesus, again, wanders the desert for how many? 40 days. This number 40 is used over and over and over again. And I just included a bunch of places there. And you might even want to screenshot it if you like. So many times 40 is used. 40 for a Jewish person, again, is a time, right? It's a time when Israel, Noah, spends time in the vessel, in the basket, in the thing that's protecting them. They're in there, right? They're hunkered down, and what they are doing while they're in Babylon, right? While they're waiting on the Lord, in the middle of all the chaos and the flood and the storm and the famine, in the middle of all of it, they are waiting. They're breathing, they're trusting, but they're also learning and unlearning certain things. And that's really pretty beautiful when you think about it. 40 days, always learning and unlearning period of time. It's where we learn to break certain cycles and start new habits, right? It's you saying, man, I got to start a new schedule. I got to start waking up early. And you know those first couple of days are going to be terrible. You hit that alarm and you see 4:50 a.m. and you're thinking, like, I can't do this. But if you do it enough, it takes, many neurologists will say it takes 30 days until something finally becomes a habit. Yeah, it takes time. It takes 40 days. Right? It takes 40 years. It takes time to break certain habits and start new ones. And this is the beauty of 40, learning to break the cycle and start new ones that bring new life, new connection, things that are going to connect us to a deeper way of living life more abundantly. I have a friend, Mark. He told me years ago, he said, I love being a parent. And I said, oh, well, why do you love being a parent? I love being a parent. He said, I love being a parent because I am stepping into new uncharted territory. He said for him, his son is kind of like this new experiment for him because he never had a father who loved, connected with him, supported him. His dad was physically abusive as long as he was with the family, mentally abusive. You'll never amount to anything. He was a terrible father. And so Mark had that as his experience growing up. And Mark said to me, every day is a new possibility to show my son love and connection. Every day I have an opportunity to build up my son, create safe space, and be the presence of love in his life. Every day I have the opportunity to break the cycle. Every day I have the opportunity to break the cycle. And so how do we bring it home? How do we make this applicable? Let's talk about breaking the cycle. Just a couple concepts here. Jennifer Kuntz, PhD, she wrote the Head Shrinker's Guide to the Galaxy. Interesting book. Main concepts are this. She says, number one, return to nature. And I thought, what a weird first chapter to get into, return to nature. But she says, no. It is so important to get grounded. And I know that's kind of a weird word, but returning to nature basically helps us escape the chaos, the commotion. She says, go out into nature, experience the divine, right? By taking some time, immersing yourself in nature, you begin to feel at ease, peaceful. You can step into this moment of breaking the cycle, feeling like you can breathe again. And that's why she starts it that way. Number two, she says, focus on the moment. Focus on the moment. A simple remedy to abandon like the cycle of like obsessive overthinking is to focus on the small stuff, right? The stuff that's right here, right now. I think sometimes we get into the habit of like, oh, I got to start this new diet. I got to start this new exercise program. And you're already thinking about the person with ripped abs and like the 50, 60 pounds you're going to lose rather than like, hey, this is where I am right now. And last week I lost 2 pounds and that's exciting and I'm going to enjoy this right now, right? Boil down your attention, focus on something small but meaningful. That's the idea she shares here for number two. Number three, take the long view. I think that's really good. After you've taken moments to look at this, the present, where you are right now, then after you've done that, then envision the multitude of like benefits that are going to come after you've gotten there. Because again, looking there saying, I've done this, but now remember, this is my goal. I do want to live healthier. Don't just go to the ripped abs, go bigger. I get to live longer with the people I love. I get to have a longer life. I will have more energy for the people around me. That is beautiful. Yes, I'll be able to walk up the stairs without like huffing and puffing, but there's something even bigger there, right? I'll have a healthier, fuller life to offer the people I love. Fuller, longer, think long vision. And then lastly, learn to laugh. I like that she says this. Never stop laughing. Friends, food, media, choose healthy options. This idea here, learning to laugh. I even have some ideas here that I want to share with you. And she brings up some of this, which I think is fantastic. She said this, laughter scientifically does some things for your body. Number one, it stimulates your organs. So like, think about the last time you had a really hearty laugh. Like you laughed so much you were crying. Think about that moment. If you can't think of one, you're probably due, right? Maybe go watch a really funny movie. Maybe go do something. Go spend some time with a friend laughing that you know, this person always makes me come alive. Laughter really is the best medicine. And right here, when you laugh, you take in more oxygen. Yeah. It stimulates your lungs, heart, and muscles. Laughter does something for us, right? Another thing, it relaxes your muscles. Right? That's a really cool idea. When you get stressed, your body tenses up and kind of causes you to feel stuck. That happens to a lot of us. A good laugh can like relieve, again, the physical tension. It helps you just kind of, and it actually lasts for a good 45 minutes. I thought that in itself was like, oh, 45 minutes of relaxation, that sounds fantastic. Want to learn how to like slowly unwind before bed? Maybe getting a good laugh in before you start your whatever your tradition is getting ready for bed. What if you took a little time to laugh beforehand? Another thing, laughing increases your heart rate and the amount of oxygen in your blood. So again, cardiovascularly, we are in a nation right now that's just terrible. We have so much heart disease, one of the main causes of death. Laughing can help. Yeah. Boosts your immune system, right? We are in the middle of all of these like flu-like symptoms and COVID and all of this stuff. Being positive and laughing will actually help boost that immune system of yours. Yeah. Yeah, so good. Lowers blood pressure. That's a positive thing. Helps with weight loss, right? So many different commercials will tell you have to do this and this and this and this. What if you were just like, hey, I'm laughing all the time. I'm losing weight like crazy, whatever it is. It actually even helps with the weight loss. All of this to say, the point again, when you're learning to break certain cycles, there are certain things you can do to begin that process. And I love some really easy, applicable things to start with today. I hope you enjoyed this. As always, please consider donating. ethos-church.org/donate. Again, please consider supporting what we're doing. It is so helpful. And every month, twice a month at least, we always come together virtually. And we have these really fantastic conversations about life and the Bible and spirituality. We go through deconstruction, reconstruction. It is such a fabulous time. If you want to be a part of that, please email me, tonywerfel@gmail.com. I'll send you the Zoom link. I think you'll love it. As always, you're here on YouTube. We are so thankful you're here. Please share these videos with people. Share them with people because I think they bring so much life. And again, it really opens up what the book of Genesis is really intended to do, which is, again, bring life to its fullest to all of us. Whether you're Jewish, Christian, whatever you are, there's something beautiful to be had. Thank you so much for joining us today. Love ya. We'll see you next week.